Boxing is a sport of heart, skill, and pure grit. Over the years, we've seen fights that left fans on the edge of their seats, bouts that defined careers and rewrote history. Today, we count down the top 10 most brutal boxing battles of all time. These fights were more than just battles in the ring. They were wars of will, tests of endurance, and moments that cemented legacies. Some featured dramatic comebacks, others showcased sheer brutality, but every single one was unforgettable. Get ready to relive the most intense, action-packed fights the sport has ever seen. Number 10. Sugar Ray Leonard vs. Thomas Hearns 1, 1981. The Battle of Champions. This was one of the most highly anticipated fights in boxing history. Sugar Ray Leonard, the Olympic gold medalist with dazzling speed and charisma, took on Thomas the Hitman Hearns, a dangerous knockout artist with a devastating right hand. The first half of the fight belonged to Hearns, who used his incredible reach and power to keep Leonard at bay. By the 12th round, Leonard knew he was behind on the scorecards and needed something special. He launched a furious attack, battering Hearns with relentless combinations. The turning point came in the 14th round when Leonard trapped Hearns against the ropes and forced the referee to stop the fight. It was a stunning comeback and a true display of heart and determination. Leonard's victory cemented his status as one of the greatest boxers of all time. Number 9. Diego Corrales vs. Jose Luis Castillo 1, 2005. The greatest comeback ever. This fight had one of the most unbelievable comebacks in boxing history. Diego Corrales and Jose Luis Castillo were two of the best lightweights in the world, and when they met in 2005, fans got one of the most thrilling fights of all time. The action was relentless, with both fighters landing brutal shots round after round. By the 10th round, Corrales looked finished. Castillo dropped him twice in a matter of seconds, and the referee was close to stopping the fight. But Corrales, in a moment of sheer willpower, spit out his mouthpiece to buy time. Moments later, he launched a desperate attack, stunning Castillo with a vicious right hand. Incredibly, Corrales turned the fight around and stopped Castillo seconds later. This was an all-time classic that showcased what boxing is all about: heart, determination, and never giving up. Number 8. George Foreman vs. Ron Lyle, 1976. The wildest slugfest ever. This was one of the most insane heavyweight fights ever seen. George Foreman, the former heavyweight champion looking for redemption, faced Ron Lyle, a hard-hitting brawler known for his knockout power. From the very beginning, both men threw bombs with no regard for defense. Lyle knocked Foreman down in the 4th round, but Foreman got back up and dropped Lyle moments later. In the 5th round, Lyle knocked Foreman down again, but Foreman somehow managed to rise. The fight reached a dramatic conclusion when Foreman, exhausted but determined, launched a brutal attack, knocking Lyle out cold. This fight was pure, unfiltered heavyweight action, proving that sometimes skill takes a backseat to pure heart and power. Number 7. Erik Morales vs. Marco Antonio Barrera, 1, 2000. The Mexican War. This was one of the fiercest rivalries in boxing history. Erik Morales and Marco Antonio Barrera, two proud Mexican warriors, went into this fight with undefeated records and world titles on the line. But more than that, they had a deep-seated hatred for each other, making this fight a personal war. From the first round, it was an all-out slugfest, with both men throwing heavy punches at an unrelenting pace. Morales tried to use his superior reach and boxing skills, while Barrera pressed forward, landing vicious body shots. The fight had several dramatic momentum swings, keeping fans on edge. After 12 brutal rounds, Morales won by controversial split decision, but many thought Barrera had done enough. The Mexican War became an instant classic, leading to 2 more legendary fights in their unforgettable trilogy. Number 6. Julio Cesar Chavez vs. Meldrick Taylor, 1, 1990. The most controversial finish. This fight was a clash of 2 completely different styles: the lightning-fast speed of Meldrick Taylor versus the relentless power of Julio Cesar Chavez. For the first 11 rounds, Taylor looked unbeatable, outlanding Chavez at an incredible rate. However, Chavez never stopped pressing forward, landing hard shots that began to take their toll. By the 12th round, Taylor's face was battered, but he was still ahead on the scorecards. Then, in the final 20 seconds, Chavez landed a devastating right hand that sent Taylor crashing to the canvas. Taylor got up at the count of 5, but in a shocking moment, referee Richard Steele stopped the fight with only 2 seconds left. The controversial ending sparked endless debate. Had Steele robbed Taylor, or was it the right call? Either way, it remains one of boxing's most dramatic finishes ever. Number 5. Muhammad Ali vs. George Foreman, 1974. The Rumble in the Jungle. This fight wasn't just about boxing, it was a battle of strategy, endurance, and mind games. Muhammad Ali, considered past his prime, faced the terrifying George Foreman, a knockout artist who had destroyed Joe Frazier and Ken Norton in just 2 rounds each. Foreman was expected to annihilate Ali, but Ali had other plans. Using his now famous rope-a-dope strategy, Ali leaned against the ropes, letting Foreman punch himself out. By the 8th round, Foreman was completely exhausted, and Ali saw his opening. With lightning speed, Ali unleashed a perfect combination, dropping Foreman to the canvas. Foreman couldn't beat the count, and Ali had pulled off one of the greatest upsets in sports history. This victory cemented Ali as not just a great boxer, but a true legend of the sport. Number 4. Marvin Hagler vs. Thomas Hearns, 1985. The War. If you want action, look no further than this fight. Marvin Hagler and Thomas Hearns delivered 3 rounds of non-stop, all-out war. The opening round is considered one of the greatest rounds in boxing history, with both men unloading thunderous punches. Hearns, known for his power, landed massive shots that opened a deep cut on Hagler's forehead. But Hagler, like a true warrior, pressed forward and turned the tide. By the 3rd round, he had Hearns in trouble, battering him with a flurry of punches. A final, devastating right hand sent Hearns crashing to the mat, securing Hagler's knockout victory. This fight may have been short, but it was one of the most intense battles in boxing history. Number 3. Arturo Gatti vs. Mickey Ward, 1, 2002. The Ultimate Slugfest. This fight wasn't for a world title. It wasn't about fame. It was about pure heart, courage, and the love of fighting. Arturo Gatti and Mickey Ward weren't the biggest names in boxing, but when they met in 2002, they produced one of the greatest fights ever. The first 8 rounds were a brutal back and forth, with both men landing punishing shots. Then came the legendary 9th round, one of the most incredible rounds in boxing history. Ward dropped Gatti with a vicious body shot, but somehow, Gatti got back up and kept fighting. The crowd was in shock. These 2 warriors refused to quit. Ward won a close decision, but both men gained eternal respect. This was boxing at its best. Grit, determination, and heart. Number 2. Muhammad Ali vs. Joe Frazier, 3, 1975. The Thrilla in Manila. If there was ever a fight that showed what it meant to be a warrior, this was it. Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier had already fought twice, each winning 1. But this time, everything was on the line. Fighting in the scorching heat of Manila, both men pushed themselves beyond their physical limits. The fight was brutal, with Ali landing sharp combinations and Frazier responding with thunderous left hooks. By the 14th round, both men were exhausted, barely able to stand. Frazier's face was swollen shut, and Ali later admitted he was ready to quit. But before the 15th round could start, Frazier's corner stopped the fight, giving Ali the victory. Ali famously said this fight was the closest thing to death he had ever experienced. This was more than just a boxing match. It was a war. Number 1. Muhammad Ali vs. Joe Frazier, 1, 1971. The fight of the century. This was the most anticipated fight in boxing history. Muhammad Ali, the former heavyweight champion returning after a 3-year ban, faced Joe Frazier, the relentless slugger who had taken over the division. Madison Square Garden was electric, filled with celebrities, politicians, and fans eager to see history. The fight was back and forth, with Ali's speed and skill clashing against Frazier's pressure and power. In the 15th round, Frazier landed his most famous punch, a crushing left hook that sent Ali to the canvas. Ali got up, but Frazier won a unanimous decision in what many still call the greatest fight ever. This wasn't just a sporting event, it was a cultural moment, a fight that symbolized a changing era in America. Their rivalry would continue, but this fight set the stage for one of the most legendary trilogies in boxing history. Every one of these fights was more than just a battle. It was a war of will, a test of endurance, and a showcase of sheer heart. These fights remind us why boxing is called the theater of the unexpected. Which fight do you think is the greatest of all time? Drop your picks in the comments below, and let's settle this debate. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button and make sure to subscribe for more legendary boxing content. We'll see you next time, inside the ring.